It's our fourth session in our English for Career Development series. Today's topic is financial literacy, a very important topic, all about managing your money, an important topic for many people, but especially if you're just starting out on your career and maybe you're trying to figure out how can you save money, and maybe you have student loan debt. So how do you manage both of those things? In addition to talking about managing your money, we're also going to touch on the study of finance at university. What does it mean to be a finance major? And what can you do once you finish your studies in finance? What career opportunities are there? And I'm very excited to welcome our guests today. We have Kristen Callahan, lecturer, of course, in financial literacy at the University of Massachusetts in Boston, and her student and collaborative partner, Michelle Yan. And also we have with us today somebody that we've hosted previously. It's Katie Grabing from MentorWorks, and she brought us all together. So thank you, Katie, for that. And now I'd like to turn it over to Kristen and Michelle to give them an opportunity to speak a little bit more about themselves and to share the projects that they work on, and to introduce us to the importance of financial literacy and why we need to work on managing our money. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Paula. I'm going to share my screen here, share a presentation. Sorry. Michelle, can you give me a thumbs up if you see what you're supposed to see?
Yep, looks good.
Okay, all right. So I'm Kristen Callahan. I've been teaching at UMass Boston, teaching finance.
Kristen, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, Kristen. Do you want to put it in presentation mode?
Oh, it's not.
It's not. I'm so sorry.
Okay, that's not the right thing.
I know it's a little stressful now. We're all on.
I thought I had it already. Okay.
Kristen, I think if you go to the bottom right side of PowerPoint, there's like a little button there that almost looks like an easel with the top of the slide in it. You might be able to click that into presentation mode.
Okay, let me see.
Theoretically.
Let's see. And do you see it now? The right way? Is it in presentation mode now?
Yeah,
Yes.
perfect.
Yes, perfect. Beautiful.
All right, sorry about the technical difficulties.
No worries.
Online. So I'm so happy to be here with my student and collaborator. I love that, Michelle Yan, who's been so instrumental in putting this content together. And thank you so much, Katie Grabing from MentorWorks, for connecting us to Education USA. We're so happy to be here today to talk about a really important topic of finance. And we're going to begin, Michelle's going to begin and talk about where we come from. UMass Boston, Michelle.
Hi, everybody, and thank you so much for your kind introduction. As Kristen and Paula have said, my name is Michelle Yan. I am a fourth-year student at the University of Massachusetts, Boston. I recently just declared my finance major, actually, and I will, not recently, like a year, maybe a year and a half ago. But ever since then, I knew that that's the place where I've wanted to be. So I'm super excited to be here talking to you guys about it today. I'll be entering my 5th year at UMass this fall, and that will be my last year. So the University of Massachusetts Boston is the 3rd most diverse university in the country, and is the only university in Massachusetts to be on the Atlantic Ocean. As you can see here, it's a beautiful campus, and very often I'll be studying or eating lunch and looking out onto the water. It's very close to a lot of Boston's famous landmarks, such as the North End, Faneuil Hall, Newbury Street, Museum of Fine Arts, and more. Very accessible with public transit, 10 to 15 minute shuttle ride from the station to the campus. So very convenient, very easy. The rents here in Boston are similar to those in Qatar, according to our research. The average rent here in Boston is around $2,600, ranging from $21 to $38.50 typically. And of course, you'll find something on the lower end and on the higher end as well, but typically this is where it ranges. We have both on-campus and off-campus options for living. In 2018, we had just built the dorm building, so on-campus living was a new thing, and before then, it was UMass Boston has always been known as a commuter school. In addition to our newly built dorms, we have 2 off-campus options, one of them being Harbor Point on the bay, which is walking distance from the public transit I mentioned, with 2 beaches, a harbor walk, and very, very close, like a 5 to 10 minute walk from the campus. The rents here typically range from $2,200 to $3,000 for 1 to 3 bedroom apartments with stunning views of the harbor, of the waterfront, and many of our community members live here, both faculty and students. And now I'd like to pass it over to my favorite professor, Professor Callahan, who'll talk to you guys about specifically the finance concentration, what it means to major in management but have a concentration in finance, as well as talk to you guys about the courses that I've been taking.
Okay, thanks, Michelle. Our finance program is part of our business school. It's part of our management degree. It's a concentration in finance, so you'll be taking management courses. In addition to that, concentration in finance, you'll be learning about corporate finance, investments, and financial policy is the capstone course, which kind of helps you bring all of your management and finance stuff together to, launch you into the corporate world or wherever it is you're going to work. We have many different electives, including this amazing one that Michelle participated in, the asset management practicum, which I'll talk a little bit about on the next slide as well. That's this class here. And in that class, we manage about $200,000 in real money on behalf of our endowment. And so there is no other way you can get an opportunity like this. You don't get to manage any investments unless they're your personal investments, but as a job kind of until many years of experience in your career. So this is a really great opportunity to get some hands-on experience that you can get almost nowhere else. We also have a lot of great guest speakers that come as part of that same program. We have many internships and connections in the Boston community. It's a finance hub, as well as many colleges and hospitals and things, but a lot of finance, the major financial firms there. We also have Bloomberg terminals and certification, which is really beneficial, distinguishes you in the market. And in addition to that, we have an honors program, which is something else. So you can start some research project in your field as well. And so now it is my pleasure to talk about some former students and what they've been doing to give you a sense of, both the students that we have. So you'll see we have a very diverse community. In any classroom, you will find someone from someone that looks like you from your area of the world. I am so very proud of all these students that were sat in my classroom. I'm also an alum of UMass Boston. I did my undergrad degree here. And you see that we have many different students with different jobs, treasury analyst. This star student, Scarlett Stanhope, she was a brilliant finance student and she became a life coach. So sometimes, things don't go as planned. And Stephen Matson, he's a superstar who works in Bloomberg in New York and travels around the country on behalf of Bloomberg. And many of our students are working in equity research. Jay recently got a promotion to institutional portfolio manager. And so we were so proud of his success. And Hamed, who was in my class several years ago, went back to his home country and works as an investor targeting specialist. So it's a good example of our students and what they end up doing with their degree in finance. Okay, so now we're getting to the meat of things, right? And so today our objective is to inspire you. So this is all about inspiring you. We're going to show you why and a little bit of how, but it's such a dense topic and an important one. We hope that you take this inspiration and kind of dig in and do your own learning and development around finance. So we want to inspire you to develop personal finance knowledge, skills, and habits that support and align with your life goals. And so we're really talking about building a healthy, comfortable financial life. And that, you know, to think about that, we're going to think about your wealth. And so you may have seen a balance sheet before or not, but your balance sheet is where your wealth, the components of your wealth is itemized. On the left-hand side, we have assets. Those are all the things that you own. So it's cash, any money owed to you, you know, any technology investments that you have, short-term investments, and then it could be like a car or a house or some other real estate property. And then on the right-hand side, basically represents how you paid for these assets. So you can pay them by borrowing money, or you can pay them with your own capital or your own money. And the difference between your assets and your liabilities or your debts are what you own or what you get to keep. And that is your wealth. And so what we want to think about here, right? So this is the itemization. The balance sheet is where your wealth is itemized, right? It provides a really good framework of how to think about how do we get the wealth that we want. So an important thing is that we want to have more of an investor mindset versus a consumer mindset, right? When we consume things, that means we're spending on money on things that erode in value, that decrease in value. As investors, we spend our money on things that we expect to increase in value. And those things would go on our asset side. And the goal is to get these assets as big as possible that will help you grow your wealth. And then we can also use debt. So debt, you know, gets a bad rap, but when used, you know, when used smartly, it can be a really beneficial part of your financial plan. And so these two images here really give you a sense of when debt can be used to grow wealth and when debt can be used to erode wealth. So if you're purchasing things on your credit card, for consumption, so this would be like eating out or buying things like clothing or video games, then you are going to be decreasing your wealth, right? Remember, you subtract that debt from your assets to get your wealth. But you can also use debt to buy a home, right? So many of us don't have enough cash to purchase a home. So we can borrow money and purchase a home. Since the home's value is greater than our debt, we end up increasing our wealth. So debt isn't all bad, but we just need to use debt smartly to help grow our wealth. It's one of the most important things in finance or any profession or, you know, any discipline is, you know, establishing habits that align with your goals, right? So we all know these professionals who do things that are against what they know to be the best for them, like doctors or nurses who don't have a very good diet or that smoke, or personal trainers who are out of shape and so on. And finance professors like me that tend to have some, you know, pretty unhealthy financial habits at times, but I'm still working on it. So the ability to build wealth depends more on behavior than on income. And so this is something that we see a lot evidence of in particularly in professional athletes. They earn a whole lot of money in early years in their career, and they get so excited about that money that they spend it all and then they end up broke. But there are people, there are many examples of people that start up with very little income, but because they have very strong wealth building habits, they end up wealthy, right? So your ability to build wealth or your wealth accumulation depends more on your behavior than income. So even if your income is small, you can still have good habits that support growing wealth. And even if you have large income, you can have bad habits that are going to erode your wealth, and you'll end up broke. So really good to get really important to get a good sense of what those habits are and think about whether or not these are going to contribute to growing wealth or going to contribute to eroding wealth, and make a plan to provide some protection against those bad habits. Really important point here, right? So you want to get clear on what your dreams are too, right? So you have goals and you deserve to achieve those goals. But the only way that's going to happen is if your habits and your behaviors align with those goals. And if those two things are not aligned, your two options are to give up on your dreams or to change your habits. And so I hope that that you'll work on changing your habits so that you can achieve your dreams. So to form habits, right? So it's a lot of hard work, right? Particularly if you've been doing the same unhealthy thing or not been doing a healthy thing for a really long time. It takes a while, but you got to stick through it. So this research is really valuable research that was done in the last few years. And it says that on average, it takes 66 days to form habits. So it seems like a long time. But when we talk about when we think about the importance of these habits, right, it's really just, it's just a drop in the bucket in terms of helping you get the wealth, the healthy financial life that you deserve, right? And so it could take anywhere from 18 days, depending on how motivated and disciplined you can be, to 254 days. Don't give up, right? If the habit is important, if your goals are important, then it's important to establish or break the habit. And just noticing here, these are some, just to give you a sense of, right? So obviously, as you're trying to establish a new habit or get rid of a bad habit, in the beginning, right, it takes a lot of discipline and a lot of effort. But as time goes on, it becomes more automatic, right? Less discipline, and it just becomes automatic. So so even if this seems like a long time, along the way, it's going to get easier and easier until it's just automatic. So important to keep that in mind. So let's think about, so the kind of the foundation of your wealth building plan is deciding what to do, with your money, spending it and saving it. So account statements, your bank statements are going to tell you what you spend. Knowing what your habits and attitudes. So look at those line items, and if there are things that stand out, and you think, why did I spend $25 on that shirt that I never wear, to really get into, what's going on with you emotionally and behaviorally in your spending. And then the budgeting is going to provide that structure, your spending and savings plan. So budgeting gets a bad rap, but it really helps get you to financial freedom and to wealth. And so that's your spending and savings plan. It gives you structure in your financial life. And it also keeps you kind of on track to meeting your goals. So we have the 3 keys to financial health and wealth, and they very nicely all start with A. The first one is awareness, and that's a big one, right? So there are so many things that you need to be aware of and to know. And to know at kind of the gut level, because that's what's going to drive your behavior. What are your goals? You want to get clear on that, and you want to get get really specific about it, right? Get a picture in your brain of the kind of life that you want to lead, the traveling you want to do, the home you want to have, and what your values are. Where do you want to spend your money? What's important to you, and then those habits and attitudes that might sabotage you from getting to your goals. You have to know what money's coming in and what money needs to go out. So that's a pretty standard thing that you have to know. And those can be you can look at your bank accounts, but there are so many apps that you can use on your phone that can give you that information. And then knowing an opportunity cost. So this is an economic concept, but anytime you spend $1 one way, that means you're losing the opportunity to spend it in another way. And so every time you're spending $1, you should know what you're giving up, right, by spending that $1, and that all falls under awareness. And then there's alignment. So your plans and your behaviors should align with those goals and values, right? And those and should also provide some scaffolding to protect you from your worst habits. And then automation. Automation technology is this great tool for your financial life with automating your savings. So you don't get too greedy paying yourself. You want to put some money aside for your future self, right? And put your money into savings, do that automatically. And setting up automatic bill payment, that's going to protect your credit. And it's also going to keep you away from late fees. And automation is a really super good tool, right? Set it and forget it. And you don't even have to worry about, paying your bills and things like that on time. So those 3 keys. Okay, so I talked already a little bit about consumer versus investor mindset. So there's a lot of things that I tell myself when I go shopping, like I deserve, this new skirt. I've been working so hard. I deserve to, treat myself with one thing or another. And that's really prioritizing yourself today. But when you have, good awareness of your future goals, that's going to help keep your kind of gut in your attitude and your behavior to put more weight on your future self than your today's self. This is definitely a pro-spending thinking, right? So businesses that want your money, stores, Amazon, all of those, that want your money, love this consumer mindset. You totally deserve all these things, but you deserve a healthy financial life too, right? So you want to think more with an investor mindset, pro-wealth thinking. It should be hard for you to part with your money, right? That money belongs to you. You earned it. You deserve it. You should be protective of it. It's your money. It shouldn't be very easy for you to part with it. All right. And so now we kind of get into some meat, and Michelle will be demonstrating some calculators for us. So so that was a lot of talking, and now we're going to prove to you why it's really important that every dollar matters. And then when you get an opportunity to start investing, that the earlier, the better. So here's an example of 2 investors, and noticing that the second investor here on the bottom has a lot more money than the first investor at the end of this, right? The value at age 65, $1.1 million more, that's pretty significant. And just noticing that this person deposited just $14,400. And they deposited that money from ages 18 to 25, so that's 7 years. Whereas this person started a bit later at age 25, made deposits for 40 years until age 65 and deposited a total amount of $72,000. So it was the same amount each time, and ended up only with only 1.8 million about, right? So much rather be in this position. And what happened here, right? Seems hard to believe. I did this calculation myself many times, but this is a fact. This is true, because this is the power of compounding, right? So this is you earning money while you sleep, right? This money, because this person started seven years earlier, time was on their side and their money grew without them having to add too much to it. And so the lesson here is to start early. And even if it's a very small amount of money, that just starting early and take advantage of that, the power of compounding, earning money while you sleep, so that you can grow your wealth in the future. So now Michelle is going to demo a calculator to prove this to you. So I'm going to stop sharing. Michelle, do you have screen sharing permission?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, perfect.
All right, I will be sharing my screen now. Let me see if you guys can see this all right.
You see slides.
Wrong sheet. Okay. Professor Callahan was right. The power of, I like to think of the power of compounding or time value of money as the 8th wonder of the world. It's almost like magic, because you put in a lump sum amount of money and you get interest on that lump sum amount of money, and your interest makes interest too, and it's a snowball effect. It's like a domino chain, and it's incredible. And I also had I couldn't, if I was only shown that slide where you put in 70,000, you get out that big amount, that with many zeros. I also had to do that same calculation to believe it myself, and this calculator does exactly that. So
can you do the Michelle, can you do the investment future values one?
Oh yes.
And sorry, Michelle, can you just expand and enlarge your this page, because like it's not as big as we can watch it, and in fact there is part of your computer that we are looking. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, this is okay. Thank you.
Is this better?
Yep. Thanks.
Okay, so as you will see here, the green is your input, so you can play around with the numbers. And I'll be using this default example that Professor Callahan built into this calculator. So if we were to start, or if I started investing at age 18, and I was going to retire at 65, or take out my investment at 65, and I put in a weekly investment of $20 at an 8% interest rate, which is a pretty conservative interest rate compared to the S&P or the NASDAQ or another index tracking fund. I would have at the end of age 65, I would have put in almost 50,000. So 48,000, that's what this column, that's what this cell is here, 48,880, and taken out 543,719. I think that's incredible. But if we were to do a periodic investment of, let's say,
Michelle, can you also point out that if they wait just 5 years, look at how much less money they have?
Exactly. So if I were to start 5 years later at age 23 with the same interest rate of 8%, with the same weekly investment of $20, I would get 300. I would have only invested around 5,000 less and received almost 200,000 less in the 40-something years. And I think that is. I think that's insane.
Right. Also, it's just $20, right? So, and it amounts to so much.
It's true. It's true. Now, if we were to do something like, let's say we were able to put aside $35 every week, that number would jump up to almost $1 million. That'd be 951,000, and I would have invested less than 100K, so less than a tenth of that, just because of the power of compounded interest. Again,
and I just want to jump in. I don't mean to interrupt, Michelle, but just for our audience and Kristen, when you talk about investing, I mean, this is great. Where will they put this money? I mean, how do they make this work?
So we're going to look at that a little bit more later. So
like the options for this
for investing. Yes. So this 8%. There are things called ETFs available. So those are exchange traded funds, and they're proven to be the most efficient and beneficial investments. And we're going to look at actually, we can jump ahead to that right now, actually. So that's a very good point, Paula. So we might as well just talk about this right now.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to rush you along.
No. This.
And I'm fascinated by that, as it's okay. It's such interesting data. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So I'm just going to skip ahead on our slides. We have a couple of things we want to cover. Okay. So this is this is an important piece of it. So we're revisiting this same slide, and we're just going to talk about it from a little bit of a different angle. So one thing here in the US, we have ETFs, but they're also over in Qatar too. They're all around the world. And what exchange traded funds are just they're baskets of investments, right? And they're typically they typically track an index. So they would track any country's major financial market indexes. And so you can invest your money in something like in an ETF, which is a really smart investment. This is yes, Paula.
Kristen, can they do this individually? Like I'm thinking of Robinhood or E-Trade, where you can just go on and log in and you can do this as an individual. You don't need an advisor. Okay.
No. Yeah, that's the beauty of ETFs. And in fact, that originally they came from mutual funds, and the whole idea behind mutual funds and ETFs were for people like us that just want to invest, because the IVV, for example, that tracks the S&P 500 index, which if you're in the US, you have heard of that. And so it includes investments in all 500 stocks, which as one person, you wouldn't be able to do that, right? Wouldn't be able to invest in all those stocks, but now you can just make one transaction.
So as an individual, they can create an account and
yes,
explore options there. Okay, sorry for interrupting. Okay, go ahead.
No, that's a great question. Yep, so individuals can do this. So we have many trading apps in the US. I don't know what it's like over there, but where my students, Michelle, have you invested?
Yes, I have invested in ETFs.
Yes, and so anybody, as long as you're in the US, you just have to be 18, and you can do that.
The beautiful thing about, I don't mean to interrupt. The beautiful thing about ETFs is that it's very passive. It's very much set it and forget. So there's a very stark difference between investing and trading, which a lot of people get confused with actually. So trading is a little bit more high stakes, high risk for a high reward, whereas investing is something to put your money in and let that work for you and not have to actively manage it all the time. And you might not see as aggressive of a growth as, I don't know, 40, 50% return, but that the conservative 10, 12% is something perfect for someone like me, who's a very passive investor, doesn't want to think about it all the time and can just have that running in the background while I sleep, while I live life, and know that I'll be able to have a comfortable financial future in the, when I'm older.
Yeah, it's important to say, so I use that 8% rate and that calculator, and that's on average over time. So in 1 year, actually, that was based on the average of the S&P 500. But in 1 year, that, this is going to sound really scary, but if you have a long period of time, and we'll talk about another, nice feature of doing periodic investments, there was at one point in time, I think it lost 42%, like many, many, many years ago. But, that they'd also gained almost 40% as well. But on average over time, right, if you have 10 years or beyond to invest, you can, pretty much rely on getting a return of 8% or more. And the other index, the ETF QQQ, that tends to earn about 13% on average. So it does have some years where it has very low negative returns. So this is an illustration of a basket of stock, an ETF. So that as the IVV would have 500 stocks, but it's just one investment, which it holds all of these stocks. And you just trade, you trade them very simply through, an investment app, E-Trade, Robinhood.
I know, I'm just going to bring this up on the side that some people are concerned about some companies that they want to avoid certain companies. They don't want to be investing money in certain companies. So how can they investigate what these ETFs are? Like who does that make sense? Who
yeah, no, sure. I mean, I get where you're getting at. So they do have something, they have ETFs of many different types. So there can be ETFs that are for clean energy, for example, or that have only sustainable firms, or that would not include companies that, sell alcohol or produce alcohol or guns or things like that. So there's an ETF for everybody.
Great to know. I didn't
Yeah.
know. Okay. All right.
Yeah, yes. And you could just Google, you just ETF, for shoes or something. I mean, there's not one for shoes because there's not
Yeah.
enough shoes company.
Yeah.
But you can, like solar energy. So there's a clean energy ETF. There's what solar energy ETF is called TAN, T-A-N, that's the ticker. And so it's all solar energy. And then there's a wind energy ETF that's called FAN, F-A-N, that holds all companies in the wind energy. And then there are, the other things like that. So there are ETFs.
So you make sure that you're investing, that when you're going to invest your money, you're investing in something that you believe in or that you support, that's ethically appropriate to your beliefs.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you'll know every, when you're investing, you have access to the list of every single company that's in it, every holding that's in it. So, but it also will summarize, they have very good summaries of the types of companies that are in there and what they're engaged in and things. Okay, so that's ETFs. And so this idea, so Michelle sort of touched upon investing versus trading. So trading would be doing something like trying to time the market, like trying to think of, oh, maybe I should buy Google stock today because I think that, they're going to have some good news come out tomorrow. And you think it's going to rise, right? So that kind of thinking is called timing the market. And what research has shown is that it's not really beneficial. And usually it doesn't pay off. And so we have this other idea as time in the market, right? So just whenever you have money available, when you're of age, when you have the ability to do so, put your money in. Don't think about what's going on in the market at that time. Just choose investments that you believe in, that align with your values, that you think have growth potential, and put your money in there and just wait, let it ride the waves, right? So this is just pointing out, there are peaks that just and then things plummeted, right? So you might have, if you invested right before September 2008, you might have been pretty happy when we got this little bump right afterwards, but then it tanked, right? And so, it's really impossible to time the market consistently. And it's also can be expensive, super stressful, and super time consuming. So this is showing, that this is the sort of the graph, a similar graph than the one before, but this is just showing if you have periodic investments. I forget the dollar amount I put in here. So this is you just every month or every 2 weeks, you're putting a little bit of money in, and your money's going to grow over time. Now, what happens is when the market goes down, right, you're a little bit bummed because the things that you already purchased, they lost value. But you're also still buying those things that are now cheaper. So what happens is that it actually starts to stabilize, right? So it stabilizes your return. So you can see that in this yellow line, so this green line is an ETF that follows this NASDAQ index. This is periodic investments in an ETF that follows this NASDAQ index. And you can see that the ETF, it has much less downside volatility than the index itself, right? So we have this drop here in September 2008, and this is much more shallow drop there for your investment. So what happens is, right, this is the thing, this is called dollar cost averaging. So investing is risky, right? And we don't like risk. But if we're a periodic investor, so that means that every 2 weeks, every month, every week, we're investing in the same thing over time, right? So that means, right, rather than just in taking one lump sum money and investing in the market, you're an owner, the prices go up, you're so happy, but prices go down, you're not so happy. If you haven't bought into the market yet, you're just going to take your, one lump sum and buy. The prices are really high right now, you're really bummed out. You missed an opportunity to get them cheap, right? Prices go down and you want to buy, you're happy. But if you're an owner and a buyer, so that's a situation where you are making your periodic investments out of your paycheck each week. You own it and you buy it, right? So prices are up, you're happy because your portfolio has gone up. At the same time, you're paying more when you invest in that same asset, right? Because prices are up. When prices go down, your portfolio has gone down in value, but now you get to buy things at a lower price. So in both cases, it sort of levels out the emotion and the stress of it. And it also brings up, it works emotionally, and it also works mathematically, because it lowers your average price, right? So you don't just have one price that you bought in, you get to take advantage of low prices. You'll also be buying at high prices, but on average, your price will be lower, which means your returns are higher. So this periodic investment in an ETF, something that's, diversified, is a really smart way of building wealth.
Michelle, can I ask you quickly, when you're talking about that, I'm sure it depends on your income, but how do you determine the percentage that you can afford? Let's say you're just kind of making ends meet and you want to invest. Is there a formula for how much you can afford to invest, when you're managing your expenses?
I am only able to talk about my specific experience and my personal experience.
Kristen, I'm sorry.
Kristen will talk about it. She can talk about it from a general standpoint. But for me, I am able to invest what I do invest into my ETFs or into my portfolio because I like to, financially, I like to be a little bit more frugal. So I stay at home with my parents. I don't pay any rent, so I have very minimal expenses. So Kristen talked about in the beginning, inflows and outflows. My outflows are on the lower side, so I'm able to put more into my portfolio rather than having it go towards rent, which is not realistic or not, which is not easy for a lot of people, but just my personal experience, I'm fortunate enough to do so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the amount that you can invest, you have to do that, your budget, basically. I don't like saying budget because people don't like that word, but you have to do your budget. And the important thing is, there's not really a formula because everybody's situation is different. And even
so there isn't a way you can just say you're earning this much and you have this many expenses, and trying to determine how much can you really realistically afford to invest for savings.
Yeah, so it would vary based on, the person. So some would say, 10%, right? Because some people would want to keep more money in cash instead of in the market, right? Because there's some risk, right? So if you need that money when, prices are down, right? So it really depends. So, one of my students in my high school class this summer, they said, oh, my dad always says, just whatever, drop the last digit, and that's what you should say. So if your check is, $250, drop the zero, save 25. So that's basically 10%, but it's a, it's a simple way of thinking about it, right? But the important thing, I think the really important thing to emphasize is even when money is tight, a little can go a long way when you start early.
And this is such a hard thing for people who are just getting their chin above water kind of thing, and they're just scraping by it, and really to commit, I think, to the principle of saving. I think it's tough. I think it's,
It can, it depends.
But it's fascinating to look at, at what you've shown us already. So anyhow, I'll let you carry on.
Yeah, so I mean, I think the important thing and why I bring this up, even though money is tight when you're first starting off, right? So I used to live on coins sometimes. I would be on quarters, and I consistently get down to dimes, right? I get rid of all my quarters and now I'm on dimes. And sometimes I got into nickels. I know what it's like to, not have any money. And I think that the important thing is a lot of people have in their mind that it has to be at least $100 a time or something. No, it doesn't, right? It can
I think that's a great point.
Right? Just whatever it is, right? You can give up a latte or two or something, those are things. That's why looking at really where your money's going. Yeah, I can squeeze $10, $20, $25 out here. That's doable. So, when money is super tight, just squeeze it a little bit tighter. It shouldn't be that much more painful. I don't know, everybody's situation. I want to be sensitive to everyone's situation is really different. But, a little can go a long way when you're starting early, where you have that situation where time is on your side. power of compounding, earning money while you sleep. You know, it's much harder to catch up. You know, even when you have, you know, more net income, like more, you know, more left over, it's just harder to catch up. So just as soon as you can. So we have 8 minutes left. So let's try and get to a little bit of, I'm sorry, I'm flipping around here because I just went out of order. All right. Okay. So I looked up and it seems like you guys have in Qatar, you have credit scores just like we do. There's a little bit of difference in the components, but if you have bad credit scores, it's super expensive. So once you can start establishing a credit score, you want to take really super good care of that credit score because, you know, that is a huge and valuable investment. Noticing here, we'll just look at this house situation. These dollar values, this is just interest, right? I don't even remember how much this house cost, but on top of the cost of the house, if you have excellent credit and you just pay the regular payment, you're going to end up paying $390,000 just in interest. But if you have poor credit, you're going to pay a lot more. So noticing that, you know, your credit score, you know, just investing, taking the time and being mindful of building a healthy credit score is a huge investment, right? And here it's equivalent to about $300,000, right? Having an excellent credit score is equivalent to about $300,000, the difference between an excellent and poor credit score for buying this house, right? So super important to take care of that. Michelle, I think we'll demo the debt repayment one. Okay, and then just looking at debt. So this is on a credit card and similar with student loans. If you have particularly for high interest debt, and so that would be credit cards, student loans tend to have lower debt unless, well, federal student loan, lower rates because, you know, they're, you're investing to grow your income and whatever, but even still, they have pretty high rates if they're not federally subsidized. So you want to make sure that in addition to making the minimum required payment, that you are paying just a little more every month. So this is an example, a graph of $1,000 charged on a credit card with 18% interest, right? So the minimum payment would be $20. And this is just the interest you pay is $1,034. So more than you initially charged, right? But just noticing just $5 more a month, you save for more than $400, right? So just a little bit more. So even if you're just like, you know, scraping, you know, coins together, paying a little bit more every month is going to help you keep more money for yourself rather than pay it to the banks. The banks really love it when you make your minimum payment because that maximizes their return from you, but you want to keep as much as your own money as possible. So just drop a little bit more on top of those debt payments. Michelle, do you want to demo that one?
Actually, I'm trying to pull it up here and I'm not able to edit the cell. I think I got locked out of my access here for some reason.
Oh.
I just sent the calculator into the chat if you
okay.
that's to take
I
over.
can do it. Yeah, so this is just to, what am I doing? What do you see now, Michelle? Do you still see my, okay.
You just stopped sharing.
We just have a couple minutes left, but I'll just do this really quickly. So this is, so everybody will somehow give you access to this. Oh, I think that's the wrong, oh no, it's here.
We can see it, yeah, that's great.
Okay, so this is, okay, this is the one I wanted. So, right, so this calculator shows you how much you would save by paying just a little bit extra every month. So this, what's here is $3,000. So I'm not sure what interest rates are like in your country, but here, if you're just starting out with a credit card, it's going to be around 20%, which is pretty outrageous.
That's crazy.
I know, you'll pay 2% of that as your minimum payment, so $60. Credit card company loves if you're going to pay that. But if you just drop $20 more on top of that, it's still going to take you 5 years to pay it off. Actually, let me put this 0 here. So it'll take you 9 years if you just make the minimum payment. So that $3,000 you spent on whatever, it takes you 9 years to pay that off if you just make the minimum payment. So that's it. big portion of your life, right? You just add 20 bucks to that. It's going to cut the time almost in half, and you're going to save about $1,800. So I love that situation, right? Keeping more money for yourself. That $20 shouldn't be too painful for you to drop on top of that 60. You get to get that bill out of your hair, and you know, and keep not give all your money to the bank. So the lesson here is to never make a minimum payment. And also, even if it's just a couple of dollars, just send it. It's still gonna be meaningful over time. I'm gonna stop sharing that. So that the same thing for any type of debt as well. The savings is substantial if you just pay a little bit more each month. Okay, where are we? Right, so we did skip around a little bit here, but just to again emphasizing, budgeting is, you know, not my favorite word. I don't like to think about it a whole lot, but the thing is, it really gives you a lot of freedom. It eliminates stress. It takes the guilt out of spending, because if you know it was planned for, you're not getting that icky feeling in your stomach, like when I overdo it at TJ Maxx or whatever. You know that it was planned for, so it makes you just happier, right? And it's by, you know, spending time making this budget that aligns with your goals, then you know that by staying within that budget, you're getting yourself closer to your goals. Okay, let's see. This might be just about it, and that's time anyway. Yes, and just a reminder, right? If your habits don't align with your dream, your two choices: change your dreams, change your habits. So hopefully you'll all get to work on changing those habits and achieving your dreams. And
go ahead.
Yes. No.
No, share your contact information. I'm so excited about the information that you shared with us, because I think it's a difficult topic. I think, you know, when you think about changing your habits, and, you know, you want that immediate gratification, but yet you want to save for the future. So making those really difficult decisions, I think. But actually, I think the other point that you made is that the decisions don't need you don't need to be putting $100 aside a week. You know, just a few dollars aside a week, or a few, reals, because we're in Qatar, of course.
Okay.
You know, it doesn't have to be a massive quantity of money, but just a little bit, and consistency with that. And I think staying the course around that, I think is so important. And I mean, that's just important advice. I mean, I'm a late bloomer myself, and I wish I had started much younger, but I never felt like I could. But thinking that it could have just been a little bit of money every month or every week makes it seem tangible. And so I'm hoping our audience will think about that a little bit, that it doesn't need to be a ton of money, but just a little bit over time, and it will grow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was such a good summary. I appreciate that.
We have a couple questions.
Oh, sure.
And this is just backtracking a little bit. Somebody's asking, what kind of jobs can I get if I study finance? So if you have a major in finance, what opportunities are there for you in the business world?
Yeah. So I majored in finance, and I teach finance. I'm also a certified financial planner, and I teach financial literacy. So you can try and help other people with their money, do wealth management, things like that. Michelle, do you want to give some examples? I'm flipping back to my students. So.
The thing about studying in finance is that it's super broad. You know, I feel like there's always something for everybody, whether you're more tech-based, if you enjoy working with computers more, if you enjoy working with people more. I myself enjoy working with people more. For the past few years, I've been trying to dabble with different departments, different areas, just to figure out where my little niche, where my little corner is. And it can be overwhelming at first, because there's just so much there. But if you look at it from a different perspective, like the world is your oyster, then the opportunities are endless and the possibilities are endless. Professor Callahan has pulled up some of the positions that our former students and alumni have been a part of. I just finished an internship at John Hancock Investment Management. There I worked under the Global Wealth and Asset Management department, and I worked in securities lending, which is super, super niche and super, just one small corner of finance, small corner of asset management even, and there's so much out there. So I myself am still working through it, and I have all the time in the world to figure it out, and so do the rest of you guys. So don't be
I just want to add to.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Paula. I just want to add that every business and every person has a finance component to it, right? So you can work in any industry, you know, and do the finances of the industry, right? Any business, you know, it finances everywhere. And like Michelle said, you could be, you know, working with customers or working in the back end doing analysis or, you know, implementation or transactions and so many different things. There are a lot of opportunities. Katie, anything you wanted to add? Katie's the Korea.
Katie, where's Katie?
You guys have done such a wonderful job. Just to echo some of the things that you're saying, finance really is everywhere. You know, even here at MentorWorks, we're a mission-driven organization that you know, provides an alternative to student loan financing, and we have a separate piece that works on finance just for the existence of the company. Money really is a huge portion of you know, nonprofits, of for-profit companies, Fortune 500, all the way down to, you know, I have a friend who just started a cookie baking company, and finance is a part of all of those things. So no matter where you look, if this is something you're interested in, you're going to find a way to plug in where you can really make sure that your passion is part of what you do every day as well.
I love that. That's great. We have one other question about what are some examples of healthy habits for savings. And we touched on that a little bit, but I don't, any of you, Kristen, would like to elaborate on that, healthy habits for saving.
Oh dear. So, I mean, I think it's a lot. So, I mean, the awareness is a big part. It's so boring and I hate repeating it over, but you really have to be, it's so boring, but it's so like impactful to just, you know, I spend a lot of time avoiding looking at my transactions because I don't want to feel guilty.
I hear you 100%. Yes.
Like, I don't know, how did I accumulate that much?
Yes. What?
That awareness is like so key. If we can't even face it, we can't fix it, right? So we just have to look at really every line item and really be aware. And like sometimes we do wacky things with our money and just like really
tracking our spending, tracking our spending,
tracking your spending, and really thinking about like, wait, right now it doesn't really make sense that I spent, you know, $50 there. What was I thinking? You know, sometimes you were really stressed, you were in a rush. You know, a lot of times, like for me, I lose stuff. So I end up buying another, oh, I lost that and I have to buy another, you know.
Yeah.
There's so many things that play into it, but tracking is, instead of awareness and, you know, tracking and looking at it and making a plan. And I think also super important is to, all right, so this is a famous book that's been around since 1930. It's called Think and Grow Rich. And it talks about it. It's about mindfulness, really. It's way ahead of its time. But it really talks about getting, like, visualizing your goals and your dreams. Like when you go to sleep at night, when you wake up in the morning, put it on the fridge, everything. When that's top of mind, it really helps you with those impulses, you know? And so getting really clear, I mean, so this is like, it seems kind of fuzzy and kind of fluffy and not business finance like, but that's, you know, our what we do with our money is related to our emotions and our feelings and our behaviors, right? And so we just getting really clear on our goals it really helps, or, you know, getting really clear of how much money that you have every month left over to spend on, you know, eating out. Really can give you a gut feeling, and that gut is what's going to prevent you from spending, you know, that money that you shouldn't be spending.
It's just really being more mindful,
Yes.
very mindful. And we have a couple of people that have joined us on the Zoom call. And I don't know if you'd like to unmute your mic and ask a question if you have a question, or you're just happy listening. I just want to give you that opportunity to ask a question. A lot of information here about how to manage our finances and try to get ahead a little bit. I just want to thank you all for joining us today on this very important topic. It really speaks to my heart because I'm my family, we're such a late bloomer and in this investment game and trying to get ahead and actually managing student loans late in life. So I just think it's important to understand that there are ways to beat the system, especially I just think I can't stress enough the importance of putting a little bit aside like you did, even if you feel like you can't. Somebody said, thank you so much. Somebody thank you. Thank you for your presentation. And I appreciate your time, all of you, and Kristen and Michelle, of course, and Katie for jumping in here from MentorWorks and telling us a little bit about the study of finance and how we can manage our finance to help improve our financial lives and savings. So thank you so much.
And Paula, we'll share the deck with you as well as the calculator. So anyone that
yeah, the calculator. Oh my gosh, the calculator is a little scary, but yes, we need to have that calculator. It just, you just can't hide from the numbers, right? I think that's what we try to hide from a little bit. I mean, I speak for myself, is that, like you said, I don't want to check my spending, but if we don't stay on top of it, we can't get ahead of it. And I just think it's like this, just facing reality.
Yes.
As painful as it can be, for sure. So super.
Thank you so much. To remember is that nobody is alone in this journey. Everybody.
We're all in the same game, trying to get ahead. Exactly. Asil, do you want to add anything? Asil, do you have anything? Do you want to join?
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot for this. In fact, there are lots of times at which people, or let's say we hear or read in different articles saying don't ever go do shopping when you're hungry. Don't ever go shopping without this, right? And don't buy something that you would never use. So these are some of the things that we keep hearing. And in fact, in my country, we have a saying which says the white coin will be really useful in the black day, which stands for the bad day. So this encourages people to save money. So thank you so much for everything you provided. And we hope that everyone joined us, or anyone who is watching us on Facebook would benefit from this. It was really useful for me also, personally. So thank you so much for joining us and being with us, and hope to see you in the future and work with you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
everybody. It was such a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.